Back to this tutorial series. Before the next set of applications we are going to build, I wanted to do a quick follow-up video on the previous tutorial on how to stop, start, remove and rerun our container. Okay, so just to give a little feeling of how you could play around with the container image that we created before we start looking at creating a stateful application and running it inside of a Docker container. Okay, so if I go back to Visual Studio Code, you can see our application is still running here. Okay, so I could stop, I could exit out of this shell. Okay, but that does not mean our application have stopped running. Okay, because if I do Docker PS, okay, to get the processes running, I will see that I have a container with this ID and the image web application, web app stateless, and the command that started it when it was created, the status and the name. Just giving a randomly generated name here, funny Hiroski kinda. Okay, so so you see this is our container running here. Okay, so I can stop this container by saying docker stop. Okay, as simple as that, and specifying either the name of the container or a good portion of the container ID. I like using the container ID, so I'm just going to specify E27C. okay, 3 or 4 characters of the ID is enough to be unique, and Docker will use that to identify the container that you want to stop. So once I run this command, the Docker engine is going to actually kill the container. Probably will not kill it, but it's just going to stop it. So if I do Docker PS now, you can see I don't have any container running, and if I go back to the web browser and refresh, you will see that I won't be able to connect to that container, right, because we stopped it. Okay, so I can go back and start that container. I'm sure you've guessed the command. Docker starts with a container ID. Okay, yeah, so with the container ID, and yeah, our container is back up. So if I do Docker PS, you see, awesome, our container is back up. And if I go back to the web browser and refresh, our container is back. Cool. So that's how you can start and stop a particular container. I can, of course, remove that container by saying docker rm for remove and specify the container ID. Okay, I think it's E27C. Yeah, I remember. But I won't be able to stop a running container, right? It's not possible for you to stop a running container, so there will be an error here. Okay, so we cannot stop the running containers unless we have to force it. Okay, so for us to stop a running container, we say docker rm -f. Okay, that's how we can remove a running container. So what this -f is going to do is, first of all, stop the container, then remove it. Okay, so if I hit enter, it's going to stop the container, then remove it. Okay, so if I now do docker PS, of course there is no other container running. If I want to check all the containers I have within my system, I will do docker PS -a. Okay, and you see you don't see any container with the web app stateless image. Okay, so I had a previous 2 previous containers, actually database containers, Mongo and Postgres, that I was playing with previously. Okay, so of course, you can create another instance of a container. You can create another container instance from our container image using the docker run command and mapping it like we did before. And if we hit this, if we run this, the engine will create another docker container that hosts our application. Okay, and still on the same port. If I go back and refresh, we still have our application running. Now I want to tell you about a special tool, a GUI tool, though I don't use it that much. I like doing it from the terminal, but there is a plugin to Visual Studio that you can Visual Studio Code that you can install that helps you monitor your containers and helps you manage it. Okay, so the plugin is called Docker plugin. You can just go to your extensions and install it right here, Docker. Okay, so once you install it, you get this icon here. So with this icon, you can manage every aspect of your containers. You can manage volumes. We'll talk about volumes when we start implementing the stateful version of our application. You can manage volumes. You can, of course, manage all your Docker images. Okay, you can see all your images right here. You can remove, I think you can delete them. Yeah, you can run them from here. You can run them interactive. You can pull, you can push, you can remove them from here. Okay, you can manage your directories here. You can add new directories. The default directory, of course, is the Docker Hub directory. Then here are your containers. Okay, I have these two stopped containers and I have one running container, and from here I could actually stop it. It will actually run the same stop command that you would run from the terminal. You can see it has entered the stop state. If I go back and refresh, you won't see it again. If I come back here, I can start it again. Okay, I can come back here and start it. I've started. I can go back and refresh and I'll get my app back. Okay, so just a follow-up video on how you can play around with your containers and your images that you've created. So I'll go ahead and stop this again, and of course I'm going to package all of this code, all the code we write for this series. I'm going to package it and upload it on GitHub, and I'm going to drop a link in the description for you to go and get it. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next video where we start building the database back end to our application.